USDA's weekly crop progress report shows the state hasn't started its corn harvest. When it does, though, UNL Extension plant pathologist Tamra Jackson-Ziems says farmers might need to prioritize fields due to injury from stalk rot. Stalk rot could not only be a problem for this year's corn growers, but also those rotating to soybeans in the next planting season. Ears on the ground now could lead to volunteer corn that, as you heard earlier this summer, could drag soybean yield 10 to 30% if heavy infestations are allowed to compete early in the season. We talked with Tamra Wednesday afternoon near West Point about the prevalence of stalk rot in the state.
We're seeing some stalk rot development all the way across the state right now, and we're still pretty early in the process.
Why is it so prevalent?
Well, this year we've of course had a lot of stress all the way across the state, and we've had a lot of leaf area loss due to several different diseases like northern corn leaf blight and Goss's wilt, a lot of hail and wind damage, you name it. And so those plants are extra stressed and cannibalizing their stalks more than normal.
Sort of pick your poison type of thing that led to it, huh?
Absolutely.
Is it a different type of stalk rot? Are we seeing all kinds of it? What is it?
Well, we're seeing a diversity of different stalk rots, and the end result is the same. And so weakened stalks, and you have the potential for lodging out there.
And why is that important now as we get close to harvest?
Well, I especially want to encourage people to get out and make sure you know what the threat is in your field. And if you start to see plants turning colors and turning brown a little early, or patches turning before the rest of the field, I would especially target those and use that push or pinch test to evaluate if those plants are going to snap back up or go ahead and lodge over, and split them open, and you can confirm it on the inside too.
Self-diagnosis is okay in this case?
Absolutely. If those stalks are squishy and kind of starting to hollow out, by all means this is an issue and could be a potential risk for lodging.
What does that mean for these affected fields or areas around harvest time as you bring the combine out?
Well, as people begin to identify problem areas or fields that have a particular problem, I would recommend harvesting those first or even earlier, because the cost of trying to harvest lodge corn later on, if we have wind events, could exceed the cost that you may have for trying to dry some of that corn.
Let's talk about how this could affect soybeans. There's one type of stalk rot that can also be found in soybeans?
And that's right, and there are not many diseases that go to more than one crop, but there is one stalk rot disease, and that's charcoal rot. And so fields that are not irrigated and have had some drought stress here and there throughout the season, maybe on hilltops, maybe ones that you want to watch as well in soybean and also alfalfa or sorghum.
How much yield could be on the ground there that would cause volunteer corn the next year?
Well, that's certainly something to think about, and so we don't want to lose anything at harvest, especially with crop prices as low as they are. But also, volunteer corn can be a reservoir for inoculum of different fungi or bacteria for the next corn crop to come, so we have to control the volunteer corn as well.
What management options are available for this, Tamra?
Well, for stalk rots, there's nothing we can do right now. Stalk rots in general tend to come after we've had stresses during the season, and we do everything we can already to minimize that stress. And so in general, if you can monitor your populations, try not to make those too high, and try not to over-fertilize and water at optimal times. There's not much otherwise you can do except maybe hybrid selection when we have just a few options for more resistant hybrids.
Should also mention while we're here that portions of the state, including this area, saw some frost damage. What can that do to the corn?
Well, if the frost was severe enough that it causes premature plant death before black layer, this could potentially lead to some ear rot problems. And of course, that would further compound what we're looking at now. And having ear rot problems, especially things like cladosporium, like we had in 2009, we know cause not only harvest problems, but also storage problems that we want to try to avoid. So I would monitor for those as well.
Related to frost damage, the Crop Watch website has information on how frost or freeze can damage corn and soybean plants. We'll link to that article on the Market Journal website.